I don't know whether you agree with me that this particular score by Sir Arthur Bliss is fabulous.
Absolutely.
I mean, Checkmate is wonderful and Miracle in the Gaubles, but this particular one possibly excels them. It's very exciting because you've been playing it up to now quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the theatricality, and we were kind of saying earlier, you don't really hear much music, new music that's being created that has that kind of sense of theatricality, and I think it's an amazing score. I'm just surprised it hasn't been used before. So.
It's extraordinary. I mean, the fact that Robert Helpmann used it when he did his Adam Zero, which was in 1946 at the Opera House, and it only had 9 performances. It was considered to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Even those who were in it said it was a disaster. And nobody remembers the step. I think it's all Freudian, actually. They can't. But they admitted it was theatrically quite powerful in places. But I mean, that was Bobby's forte.
Yeah.
I mean, theatre.
Yeah.
He was essentially a man of theatre. I think in this instance, if we're talking about Adam Zero, which is basically the life story of a man.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Yes.
what worth following.
Yeah.
And it goes through the 7 ages of man, as in Jacques' speech in As You Like It.
Yes.
Yes. And that differentiates the various points of it. I won't embarrass you by reading it, but we can come back to that from time and test various other things out. So really, if we say that we're looking for bliss, basically, as our source of inspiration, and the bard, that way we have alliteration. That's quite good, isn't it? Bliss and the bard, that would be good. They're being incidentally very cooperative and most encouraging, the Bliss Trust. Good, because Karen Selick, his daughter, we've been in communication, and I mean, well, goodness knows what the odds are, but it deserves to be at some point a triple bill for Bliss's sake as much as anything. Because if one had Checkmate, De Valois' Checkmate, Bobby's Miracle in the Gauble, which is in the process of being revived, and Gillian Lynn, who was in it originally, and the Fab Five in the 90s. I mean, it's extraordinary. Henry Dancer's 93. And then some young whippersnapper called Andy McNicol, you see, said he could be good enough. Well, he's only 20. How dare he say this wonderful music and make a travesty of it? I mean, that could be a fantastic threesome, if you'll pardon the expression.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if we say we're going to work with Bliss and the Bard, rather than perhaps stick too literally to what Bobby did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can only think of Sir Robert Helpmann as Bobby. He was Bobby to everybody. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying?
No, I was just agreeing that I think that's because we were saying, you know, there's references to this in the score.
Yes.
And I think looking at why the ballet was a failure originally is key. And one of the things in the reviews and it talks about is how, you know, because originally it was going to be more of an abstract ballet, and then one of the reasons it was changed was because Helpmann was worried that it would be too much like Massine's symphonic ballets. So that was one of the reasons for adding all these characters and layering and layering and layering. So kind of removing from that slightly and sticking more to the score and this quote as the inspiration, I think is definitely the way forward.
Very good. Because Michael Byrne has discovered at Cambridge information from the Bliss Trust that Sir Arthur's memorabilia is held there in the Cambridge University Library.
Amazing.
And Mindan, who was looking at the scores and saying that in the score he actually wrote, you know, that his inspiration was the 7 Ages of Man. That's interesting. I mean, you know about Massine's abstract ballets yourself, or not?
I not so much, but what I know is from what I was reading from the reviews about this and how he was saying that he wanted to move away from that. I mean...
Oh, really? I didn't realise that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are many reasons why it was a failure to begin with, but one of the original synopsis for Adam Zero was much more abstract, much more more in keeping with just the idea of this philosophy of man's life and the cycles,
Yes.
which is what I kind of want to go back to.
Yes, but you're essentially a man of theatre, as
Absolutely.
Bobby was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you love narrative.
Yes.
So that balance, I mean, Massine, your mention of Massine gives me an opportunity to tell a little story. Have you seen any of Massine's ballets? I mean, there's the Boutique Fantasque and
Yeah,
so
well,
forth.
I learnt a bit of that during school.
Oh, yes.
Slightly.
Which part did you play? Well, no matter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't...
Who trained you in it?
I think Trish Linton.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah.
Well, when he came and he did this revival for us, and I was supposed to kneel at the foot of this lady who was of a certain age, namely virtually 80 at the time, and say to her that she was beautiful, say, "You are beautiful," you say. So the whole company was gathered around, and I did this, and Massine said no, and he showed me again. And then this went on for an hour.
My God.
The whole company, he was so punctilious, Massine.
Yeah.
They were all sitting around thinking, if bloody Drew doesn't get this step right soon, we're all going to lynch him. Because he was very clear what he wanted. He said that this movement should start here in the shoulder, do a big movement there, and then a smaller movement just from the elbow, and then finally just from the wrist. So it was big movement, slightly smaller, very small.
Nice.
And it sounds so easy. It's so difficult. But that way, somehow he felt he could convey the idea that I think that you are... Oh!
Yeah.
And he did have that... I loved, Boutique Fantasque, and I loved Mademoiselle Ongo and Tricon. I mean, we saw him do Tricon. I mean, his heel beats and everything. Tricon, he was absolutely fabulous, a great hero of mine. And because you have early heroes as well, going back. Is there somebody that I know that you're interested in from the past?
Absolutely, and Roland Petit is a massive inspiration for me.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What did you see of his?
I've seen, well, one frustration is that there isn't that much of his work shown in this country. So what I've been able to access is either, I've gone to Paris a couple of times to see the Paris Opera do, his Carmen and Le Jeune Homme.
Oh, the Carmen,
Yeah,
yes. And Le Jeune Homme, yes.
Yeah, and then because they're the key ones, that's what keeps coming back. But he has such a massive body of work. It's a shame we don't get to see more of that. So, but the internet is a great resource. There's a lot on film, so I've managed to see bits from as much as I can.
Your generation is excellent at using that. I mean, I really take my hat off to you. He... First ballet I choreographed was Intrusion on the students at the school. It had a wonderful class, including Marion Tate, who now, who's assistant director of Birmingham Royal Ballet, and Yuri Killian, who came on to be not a bad choreographer.
Wow.
And we started it. It was Schubert, and as the curtain passed it, Yuri Killian was seen in the middle of a handstand in the middle of the stage, which he held until the repeat of the phrase when he slowly lowered himself to the ground, which was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
And he was an amazing man, and he wanted to use some music because it was he who introduced me to Messiaen. I had never heard of Messiaen, and he's a student at the school, and I'm in my 40s or whatever it is. And I'm being instructed by your pupils, shall ye be taught? And he sits down with his lovely fingers, he's only 17, and he starts playing Messiaen. Do you know any of Messiaen's music?
I've heard bits, but I don't know.
Quartet for the End of Time.
Okay.
If you ever get a chance, it's divine. It was done in a prison camp during the war. Wow. And he played it himself with 3 colleagues there. And they were playing with faulty instruments, so he had to orchestrate it accordingly. It's a very moving piece indeed. And... somebody who wanted in the Rambert company, when it went contemporary, to choreograph this music. And the problem was that the publishers had made it very clear that Messiaen never wanted his music to be used for ballet. Anyway, They persevered, they went on, they continued, it's getting closer and closer to the premiere. And they had a very sticky letter indeed from the publisher saying, "We wish to repeat that Messiaen does not allow his music to be used for ballet. If you proceed, we shall sue you." So it's about 2 or 3 days before the opening night. So, so they got hold of the company pianist, and in 2 or 3 days he hacked together some sort of a score which would fit the choreography, which looking at the which had already been done by then, and they called it rag dances, and that's the way they got round it.
Wow!
But I got to this story from Roland Petit, because Roland Petit was a friend of Messiaen and used to send a letter to him every year on his birthday, saying, "Could I use your Terengelier symphony, please, for a ballet I want to do?"
Really?
Every year on his birthday. And this is a massive score. I don't know if you ever heard it. It was at the Proms last year. Huge orchestra in 10 movements. And finally, Messiaen relented, and Petit did that ballet. Now, history doesn't record how well it went. But anyway, that's an example of your hero's work.
Yeah.
I've digressed. I'm always digressing. Right. So, you're intending to do 3 sections of the score, yes?
Yes.
And which ones are they, please?
That's the Fates, the Love Awakening Parada, and the nightclub scene. So it kind of gives an overall feel of the whole ballet in a way. You know, tries to represent as the diverse sides of it as possible in the 3 sections that we're able to do.
Very wise, well chosen. No, that's great. Now, how long is this in total? Minutes?
All 3 together?
Yes.
I think it's between 8 to 10 minutes.
Really?
Yes.
And how long have you got to create this?
I think at the moment we have 1 day.
1 day?
So...
And you're... I mean, if choreographers put together about a minute, they think they've done pretty well.
Yeah.
That's a challenge you set yourselves there.
Yeah, I mean, I see what I can do before then in terms of if I can grab any rehearsal time or space or dancers or do whatever I can. I'm not intending to go in on that day completely cold.
Oh no, absolutely not.
But,
which is why we're sitting here, really, because to go through it and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. But it'll happen, so it's fine.
Well, I've got great faith in you. If I were to tell you that today the Royal Ballet Upper School told me they could not be certain that they could give you 5 dances after all if you wanted, that should help to restore your faith. Because you're going to use outside dancers, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got dancers from Central School of Ballet.
Central School of Ballet, yeah.
So, because the nightclub scene obviously is a large ensemble piece.
The nightclub scene, yes.
So I've tried to get as many bodies as I can for that, and I think at the moment they've provided about 12. I might try and push it to 16. So that's definite, and then if the Royal Ballet School do allow some dancers, or if I can access dancers who I know who are around, I'm sure it can happen.
Have you got any of that on your whatever it is?
On the iPad.
On the iPad. So my wife just got a tablet for Christmas.
Yeah,
and
they're amazing. They're amazing.
She's got heavily into it.
Yeah. You'd love it. I recommend. You would love it. You would.
I can hardly cope with the computer.
So
this is the nightclub scene.
The nightclub scene. Okay, here we go. It's not very loud, but.
Okay, thank you. It's a pity we can't make it louder, but
yeah.
No, I've got the feel like, because I've been playing it as well, obviously, as you know, so we've been working separately and communicating by phoning and emailing. And that is very much the most upbeat section of the whole thing. It is a mass, and it proceeds at that pace virtually all the way through.
Yeah.
And how do you perceive the narrative line being developed during that nightclub section?
Well, I think I think we both agree there are definite kind of musical changes or quite a few key moments throughout where there's definitely, something happening or introducing a new character or this kind of thing. And in a way, I think the music almost kind of dictates that. I think that's one of the challenges actually about the whole thing, is finding that balance between, you know, it's all kind of continuous action. It's all very linear in some respects. So to try and shake that up a bit and work with that, I think is good.
And which soloist do you see? I mean, it's obviously a number for the core.
Yeah.
But do you see some soloist roles at some time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key things about this scene is this idea of taking over the generation. So you have the older Adam, and you have the young pretender, or the younger Adam, or son.
You and me, in fact.
Absolutely.
We
should just do it right now.
Right. Incidentally,
yeah.
I will come back to that.
Yeah.
I always digress, as you know. Improv, do you ever use improvisation techniques?
Yeah.
You're going to need them, I think, when you try. Because this is a perfect example where you play the music and get them to have a go.
Absolutely.
Because it is like a normal nightclub
exactly.
scene.
Yeah.
Well, so how do you set about that? You give them the germ of the idea, which is fairly self-explanatory. You're in a nightclub, this is the music we're playing, what would you do? And then how do you proceed to select from the improvisations which you see?
I think I work a lot in like images or visuals in my mind anyway, so like the music and everything, the essence of it is already there, so I would share that with them, see what they come up with, and mould with them or work with them. I don't know, it's difficult to articulate because it's different every time and it depends how the dancers are responding. But I like to think that we collaborate together and create the movement together.
It does make a big difference if you know each other and they know you from the past too, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then they lose their inhibitions.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, do you use a video to record what you're seeing and then you can play back and say, I like that bit or I didn't like this bit?
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons for getting this beautiful machine.
Oh, very good. So you can do that on there?
Yeah, I can film on this and then you can edit it down. It's fantastic. So for example, they could do some improv, I could film it, and then we could watch it back and I could immediately cut it down and say, okay, we like this bit, let's take that, develop it, turn it into something more.
Yes. Because in a nightclub scene, you don't necessarily have to have uniformity. It's not like a core.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact there...
Yeah.
And that music is very danceable.
Absolutely.
And which soloist do you see being involved in this scene?
This is what I would introduce the woman again.
Yes. At what point? Somewhere? Not initially.
No. There's a very key... In fact, I could probably find it. There's a very key moment in the music where...
That's very clever.
She definitely comes in. I think it's around...
Oh, that's West Side Story! For goodness sake! Sondheim, no. Oh, I can't remember names. Isn't that West Side Story?
Mm.
They may well have lifted it from him.
Quite possibly.
He was there first.
Yeah. I think it's coming to it now.
Oh, nice.
Just
Disco Queen.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, isn't it? It's right seductress. Yeah, nice. No, that makes sense. I can see that.
So, yeah.
But on the male side, is there a figure? Because in the Bobby scenario, there is... I'd call him the young pretender, but the understudy or the son. There's this concept always, isn't it, that he's looking over his shoulder at him, Zero, because the youngsters coming up behind him.
Yeah, this idea of generation taking over.
Yes, you little bastards, aren't you? And you are too. So he would be on there, would he, the understudy figure from the beginning with the core generally or not?
I would start with the core, and then again, for me musically, there's a key moment where I would introduce him as, you know, you have the core, you kind of set the general scene, and then as it begins to build, I would bring him in. So it's beginning to build. Could even bring him in there, or there's a moment 10 seconds later.
Nice.
Either.
Yeah.
So again,
actually,
it's
to my generation, right? So this is Saturday Night Fever. Have you ever seen the movie Saturday Night Fever?
I've not the movie, no.
With the Bee Gees. Well, I mean, he dresses up, and he goes out, and he becomes king dancer on the floor, and he gets them all eventually line dancing together.
Oh, nice.
Line
dancing.
I said line. Line dancing. And it had a huge impact in its time. I mean, we were literally queuing around the cinema to get in.
Yeah.
So that's what it conjures up to me. And in fact, some of the movement from that era might be of some interest to you. I mean, the idea of line dancing, well, I mean, I don't know. Let's see, we might be able to incorporate it or not. So that's when you feel he comes, the young pretender, and then it was quite clear what you said when Disco Queen comes on, and she's a bit of a seductress and so forth. Yeah. Now, have we seen her before?
The woman.
Yes, the woman. The one I'm calling Disco Queen.
Disco Queen. Yeah, no, I like that. We can keep that title. I quite like the idea of the Disco Queen being his first love. So for me, the nightclub scene is all about the destruction of his world, everything crumbling, everything dissolving, and this whole idea. So the fact that he sees his woman kind of morphing into this horrible character or whatever as well.
That's very interesting. I like that.
Be another. It would add to the
another
whole
dimension.
Yeah.
I like that idea. That's good. Because they get married, though, don't they, early on? Because
absolutely.
The part de deux.
They've had the part of this
and then there are all the bells and the marriage and everything.
Yeah.
And
they get married, and then for him to for him to lose all of that as well, I think would add to the dramatic impact of the destruction of his world.
Yes, so he sort of comes in, as it were, to a fairly alien ambience because at his age he tends not to patronise such places, and discovers to his horror that his now separated wife or whatever is flaunting herself and so forth. Very good. No, I like that. What sort of generation is he falling into at this point in the ballet? He's gone through his autumn, hasn't he?
Yeah. Previously, before that, he's gone through his autumn.
Yes.
And I think that's about the realisation of he's getting older and things are becoming a bit more difficult in this kind of thing.
I know. It does. Do you know Frank Sinatra singing "It Was a Very Good Year"?
I think you've mentioned it, but I don't overly know it. But
well, if you can get hold of it, because the orchestration is very like the autumn section. Percy Faith, because he always used to do Frank Sinatra's. Yeah. And when he sings about it, because he talks really about the women in his life at the various points, it was a very good year. I can't sing. And in a way that almost mirrors the concept of the 7 Ages of Man. Yeah. And I would recommend to you, because when it gets the autumn section, it has very much the same spirit as that has, the autumn. Have you got, does it start, have you got the beginning of autumn?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Nice. Yes, it's...
Has it?
Lovely. It's very haunting, that.
Yeah.
Would you consider doing anything quite so corny as having the occasional autumnal leaf falling? Or is that a bit OTT for you?
I don't know. I think it would depend how the set and overall visual were to develop.
Yes.
As to whether that would
work in that context. Because
sometimes,
these things can be very effective in the theatre. I mean, it's old fun.
Yeah.
It works so, It brings a tear to the eye and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you might even go and have snow in the winter. Because if you think about Sir Fred's Enigma Variations, and he has just a few autumn leaves falling, and Macmillan at the end of Three Sisters, when they march across and they're departing, and the snow is coming down, and that adds to the sense of loss of the sister because she's going off to war. So it can... you're a very theatrical person, you like narrative, you like Petty, you go back through Massine and so forth, which is great because hardly anybody does nowadays, they're all into abstract. That's one of the reasons why I'm very thrilled you're interested in this venture. Yeah. So you could consider such things. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do it, but you could sort of think about it.
I think that's one of the, looking at what Helpmann did originally with this, what I think is so surprising when I looked into, because it was a failure and everything, but one of the really interesting things I thought was the fact, this whole notion of theatrical inventiveness, and the whole way the ballet, when he did the ballet, opened with this complete bare stage look, which nowadays is a really quite commonplace. It's considered a contemporary idea to see this kind of bare stage, wings, all of this kind of stuff, and there he did it back in 1946. And yet it's quite a contemporary idea nowadays. And they were, changing on stage and using set lifts and all of this kind of thing he was doing, which...
He was such a man of theatre.
Yeah.
I mean, by his own admission, he was no technician. But my God, was he theatrical. Yeah. I mean, most people would know him, of course, through Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, as they...
Yeah.
Free lollipops today. When people go... But I mean, that really was his forte. And he brought that because he did so many... I mean, I don't know whether you know, but... acted at the Old Vic, and quite a lot. In 1937 he did Oberon.
Wow.
There's a fabulous... If you go up towards the Lily and Baylis, up at the top, there's a wonderful photograph of him there in a typical Helpmann over makeup.
Yeah.
Oh, I must tell you that. Because you've seen Hamlet just recently.
Yeah.
You were watching it?
In the archives, yeah.
And I think it's Bobby's best ballet, actually.
Yeah.
But you like that?
Absolutely. And again, it was that whole theatrical, element to it, and that, I mean, the fact that the whole thing was 18 minutes. I mean, how you can, that's amazing.
It tells the story of how... Well, various actors and actresses, came back on the opening night and said, "You're so clever, Bobby. It takes us 4 hours to get through Hamlet and you tell the whole story."
18 minutes, incredible.
With all this sort of surreal treatment. But what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil. That's it. He was... what you saw, with his head hanging back, being carried off. And it's just... So in a way, there is a similarity to Adam's Zero. It's this concept of looking back after your life, after your death.
Yeah.
And when Anthony Dowd took over and did Hamlet, he was a bit nervous about it, and Bobby was out front to give direction and so forth. And we'd done this stage rehearsal, and Dowd was wondering what on earth Bobby was going to say to him. And eventually Bobby came on stage and gave all the notes round to everybody. And he came to Dowell and he said, "More lilac eyeshadow." And that was his notes.
Oh,
well, he was master of makeup anyway. But I mean, he was outrageous. He really was, Bobby. I mean, it's Campus Chloe. But my godfathers, because I don't know whether you know, but his virtually lifelong partner was Michael Bentel, who was directing at the Old Vic, and that's how they met. And well, in that case, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And who did the scenarios for these ballets? Well, Hamlet, I'm sure that was him, because Bobby would admit himself he was no intellectual. That actually Michael Bentel, that very good Old Vic drama director, he really explained that. Similarly with Miracle in the Gaubles, set in the Gaubles, and he was Captain Bentel, and he was stationed at the garrison in the Gaubles, and that's what gave him the idea to show it there.
Yeah. One, two, three, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, da. Wa, da, da, dee, da, da. Yeah. Yeah. You get the idea? Good, nice. So even, see if you can just punctuate this a little bit more. So from this one, still. E, still, and go. Good. Good, nice. Just remember on all of this, lots of resistance, yeah? So resistance, go. And still. Good, continue on. Good, keep this very directional, good. And slow down, slow. Good.
Good. Nice. Fine. Is it possible on these linking steps, these transitions, to keep with the focus very directional? So we keep this kind of angular feel going. Nice and easy. And speed up. Good. Yes, nice. Good. Yeah, same thing. So keep with this idea of being very directional with where everything is happening. Yeah? Direct and back. Yeah. Good. Back. Here we go. More broad and proud. Good. And continue on. Good. Let's keep going. This is nice. Good. And good. So same thing here. From this point here, leave your focus towards him. That. Slow it down. Really keep the connection here. Yeah. Continue on. It's okay in your entire style. Good. And keep going. This last little bit. Breathe. Good. Fine into the last lift. Yeah? Is that about time, I think? Yeah? Good. Thanks very much.
Because when I'm choreographing, I'm always saying, you know, don't think of it as a position. I'm interested in the journey of how you get to there. I'm more interested in that in a way. You know, it's just as beautiful, so don't just get in an arabesque, like, show that journey to it. And when I was thinking like that, I was thinking it enabled me to achieve that better, I think, instead of so, like, position, position, position. For me, when I look into something or when I choose something, I have to almost, I try and almost see the bigger picture.